Bev's Video Kingdom is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
I can grab your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing. Woo!
Hi there, everybody in BVK land. How you all doing? This is Brad.
I'm Nate, and I'm doing great.
Nate, are you doing great? Zach, are you back?
I'm Zach, and I have one eye that's very red right now.
I know, and I don't know what's
So
going on.
does Nate. Nate's got his right eye is very red also.
I'm wondering what you guys were doing.
His left eye.
Don't you get,
Wait, your eyes is redder than mine.
don't you get pink eye from like fecal matter and stuff? Have you guys been doing anything nasty?
Well, I mean, other than like rubbing my eye after I picked Zach's butt. No.
Yeah, just a little, some pillow farting.
Oh, but yeah, we are not in the any of our normal studios. We are currently in LA.
On location
In the City of Angels, and we are actually doing a morning podcast. This is something we have never done before, so it's kind of changing up a little things.
You get that gravelly morning voice from all of us.
Oh yeah, we're getting those nice,
Not from me, bro. I sound spectacular.
those deep basses going on right now. So yeah, we are here to talk about a product of all of our youths. It was 1995. I believe Zach, it was probably like 6th grade, 5th grade.
The year was
1995. Yeah, I was pretty junior high.
And Nate and I were probably sophomores.
Yeah.
So this is something that was right in our wheelhouse. This is the Adam Sandler vehicle, Billy Madison, directed by Tamara Davis, or maybe it's Tamara. Actually, maybe it is Tamara. We'll say Tamara. Tamara Davis, who actually, when we were looking at her just background, very, very interesting. She started off in music videos, did music videos for one of my favorite bands of all time, Faith No More, a bunch of Depeche Mode.
One of my favorite bands,
Hanson, Mbop. She directed that video. She directed Tone Loc's Wild Thing video. She has done just, or did I say Bust a Move from Young MC? I don't remember which one it was.
You said she was married to the Beastie Boy.
She was married to Mike D from the Beastie Boys and had 2 children. She's done a ton of TV stuff. She's done a lot of interesting movies.
She had his Beastie Babies. Is that bad? Is that a
Beastie Babies?
Nate's face is like, fucking, I hate puns and dad jokes.
They might have been both boys. You said they were actual Beastie Boys.
She also did. I mean, can we not sleep on the fact that she directed Half Baked?
She directed Half Baked, the classic Dave Chappelle comedy. I'm one of my. Man, I saw that movie. This goes back to BVK.
CB4. I mean, she's kind of got this sneaky and a little bit weird, but like a very sneaky directorial lineup with some movies that aren't they're kind of cult classics, but not cult classics in the way that you often think. Like Half Baked is, the stoner comedy of all time, right?
Half Baked goes back to Bev's Video Kingdom for me, the actual real Bev's Video Kingdom, because
the video store.
When our friend, his parents bought the video store, they got Half Baked, the early copy. I saw it opening night in the theater, and you can say what you want about me for seeing Half Baked the opening night.
I'll say some things,
and I will say that theater was at least half baked. Marijuana laws were it was not legal in California at that time, but that did not matter that night in that theater for sure. But we got the early release copy of that in starting of the summer, and I think we watched it probably like 30 or 40 times that summer. It was like the early release, so like halfway through the movie or like a quarter way through the movie, it'd go black and white, and these little words would come across the screen like "not for resale," blah 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 blah. But we watched the shit out of that movie, so that's an old BVK legit story.
Yeah, I mean, so Billy Madison, and if you look at the Adam Sandler lineup, right? He was a Saturday Night Live guy, and he's in a couple of things. He stars in something called Overboard. It's not Overboard. It's some version of overboard. We'll get this in a second.
Something like that.
So he going overboard, and then he has like small role in Coneheads, and then like a much bigger role in Airheads as Pip in '94. We wouldn't call it
leader.
We wouldn't call it a true lead, right?
Yeah.
But he's really good and funny in it. And then there's Billy Madison, and he's in Mixed Nuts and also kind of a small role, but. This is all kind of early 90s. And then 95, Billy Madison hits.
And that's, the first vehicle for him just to do his Adam Sandler, take it to the maximum.
And I think it was total fever pitch for me. Because this was the same time that the comedy albums came out, right? So what was the first one?
93 was They're All Gonna Laugh
They're All
at
Gonna
You.
Laugh at
So
You.
2 years before They're All Gonna Laugh at You comes out, and then this hits 2 years later.
So by the time Billy Madison comes, like I'd listened to They're All Gonna Laugh at You 1,000 times. I mean,
oh man, we had that.
We burned that.
We recited.
We burned that CD up.
See, you guys were older than me, so I think that like They're All Gonna Laugh at You. I don't think I got that until I like was a Billy Madison fan, and then I kind of found my way to his to the goat and all that silly shit on the CD.
And I think there's some. I mean, I wouldn't say that Billy Madison is like in any way like a perfect manifestation. I mean, it's not like it's supposed to be the comedy album come to life, but there's a lot of elements of it, right? Like the janitor and the lunch lady and the sloppy joes, and there's no goat, but there's a penguin. You know, like there are a bunch of things, and for me, for me that Sandler comedy is as much about the crude kind of sophomoric humor. It's about that, but it's as much about the delivery and the weird voice and everything.
Looking at me, Schwan.
Which now, I think I don't find as near as funny when I watch it back. At least, certainly, I wouldn't find it as funny if I encountered it the first time now.
So I have a theory, and that theory is that I thought that this movie was absolutely hilarious. And I also thought, and I've said it numerous times on the pod, I also thought that a lot of the early Jim Carrey stuff was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
And upon revisiting both, the Sandler stuff holds up better to me than the Jim Carrey
I could not
stuff.
agree more.
Yeah, it's weird, and it's
Like,
not
like
that
compare a rewatch of this to rewatch of Ace Ventura. Pet Detective, which I loved Ace Ventura Pet Detective.
Ace Ventura, I may not laugh,
At all.
Actually laugh the whole time. I can kind of giggle a little bit, but when we ran Billy Madison back, I was laughing quite a bit throughout it. And there's so many quotable lines, and it's it's not a cult classic because it was a super popular movie, especially with boys our age. You know what I mean? But fuck,
I don't even think I wouldn't want to cut out like. I think boys our age, that's definitely true. I think there were a lot of girls our age that really loved it. Like my sister, who's your age,
okay,
she loved Billy Madison.
Really?
Oh yeah, she was a big Billy Madison fan, and I think there were lots of people, of that era that still think of it as being really funny. But so to the point about things holding up, though, Brad, do you think the comedy albums hold up? Can you go back?
So I went back on Spotify and I was just like, I'm going to put this on my drive one day. I was just like, I'm going to put this on and listen to it. And there was a few things that made me laugh. And then I was like, oh my God, like the humor in this is just so base, so sophomoric. And it's like, not that I'm above that at this point, but other than just kind of the nostalgia of it, I was like, okay, this really is not that funny. Like, I wasn't like, oh my God, I could go have my kids listen to this because this is just a classic material. It's like, I don't know. There's a couple parts that like really stand out. I mean, the Toll Booth Willie will always forever. Just there's something about that sketch that's funny. But
I think the goat is probably the funniest thing on there.
So the album, I don't know. There's not a lot to say about them. It's funny for a chuckle, like to reminisce. But other than that, it's like I said, I'm not going to be like delivering. But I want to make one real quick point. That you guys are talking about Jim Carrey versus Adam Sandler. I think the big difference there is that Jim Carrey is going to run the entire show in his movie. It's like it's all about him. Versus Adam Sandler's always going to bring in some of his friends and some really silly characters. I mean, Billy Madison's got just chock full of like these little people playing characters that are just kind of ridiculous or funny. And I mean, whether it's Chris Farley or Steve Buscemi, and that's I think the big difference there and why this kind of maybe holds up a little bit better.
Yeah, that's a good call. There's a lot of talent around it, so that and there's some of the funniest lines are not not Sandler. I mean, a lot of the quotable lines are actually not Sandler in this, right? And you know, Chris Farley has some, as the bus driver, just has some like killer, funny little like, you know, things. And I also would say, and just before I want to, you know, move on to our guest here in a second, and maybe we can come back to some of this later. But one of the things I want to say about the album before we move on is, in my mind, when I go back to it and I think through some of them and I kind of sing or say the lines to myself in my head the way that I hear them, I still kind of laugh. But when I go back and listen, I don't. And I think it's not because I outperform Adam Sandler. Although, you know, you never know. Maybe if you're in my head, you'd laugh too.
Propped up by nostalgia.
Nostalgia.
That's what I'm
hell
saying.
of a
It's
drug.
like, yeah, I'm just tapping into like that sort of like feeling of that time. And so I think that the album holds up in a nostalgic way. The movie, I think, suffers a little from sort of aging in a way that's not quite as funny. But I do think it's remembering it as funny is still very funny, and it still is, you know, it holds up much better, I think, than a lot of the other stuff we're talking about.
Well, as much as I think it works better for serious movies, I was thinking of a good song to have playing at the end of this movie, and like to switch it up. And I think when you have a comedy movie, you have to try to bring in a serious song. So I thought, like, what if it ended with the national song from Warrior?
Oh, I love it.
And it ends that way, would just be a little bit more emotional and just really have you feeling some things.
Love you, man.
I love you, Veronica Vaughn.
So hot.
This is one of my favorite new bits that you've got, Brad.
Oh, it's going to get better.
Not
It's gonna
alternate
get better.
ending, alternate songs.
It'll be much better during serious movies when we throw silly songs at the end of them.
100%.
All right. Well, let's should we jump to our guest?
All right, yeah. So we are joined by Larry Hankin today, and this is a pleasure for all of us. Larry has been like a storied career throughout so many important shows, movies, all sorts of things that if you've watched any TV or movie, you've seen Larry in something.
Ever.
I think that's pretty much. I think that's pretty much the truth.
So you've been on since the beginning, right? Is that right, Larry?
Yeah, since the first. Yeah, I've been on. Well, like, here's the thing: I just can't hold a job.
It's insane. It's insane how many of these shows were like big from my childhood and even before and some after, and you've got some sort of cameo in almost every single one of them, man. It's absolutely crazy to look at your IMDb.
Right?
So
Yeah, it's startling.
So you joke that you can't keep a job, and that's why you've had 197 roles.
I can keep a job if it's performing, but other than performing, I really can't keep a job. The longest job I've ever held, well, I'll give you the shortest job I've ever held.
Okay.
Was half a day, the morning. I couldn't. I went out for lunch and never came back. I just couldn't. I couldn't take it, man. I mean, I was a cubbyhole job. You know, when you open a magazine, that little advertising that falls out, the insert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was for it was like Elle magazine, ELL.
Yeah.
It was a woman's magazine. So the insert was a lipstick advertisement and it had like 5 colors of red,
Yeah.
you know, from dark to light or pink or whatever. So I had to, and that was a card. So they sent it in. This is before digital or before the internet. So they sent it in. They sent that card in with a check next to the red that they liked. And so I was put into this little cubbyhole. It was in New York, in Midtown Manhattan, just this on the 6th floor, this old building and a little office, and they gave me a little room. It was a cubbyhole. And there was like, must have been 1,000 of these cards, more than 1,000 of these cards, just piled up on a desk. And what I had to do was take each card and count the
color?
check mark next to the color. I mean, just by hand with a pencil.
And you made it. And you made it all the way to lunch doing that shit.
I made it till 12. Well, I started at like, I think 9:30. And I just about 11 o'clock, I knew this job was doomed. And so I left for lunch. Oh, and it was run by a bunch of little old ladies, so it was like kind of cute, but not my job. So I left. Okay, and I went for lunch, and then I never came back. But I was starving at the time. I mean, this is like in the beginning of my career. I didn't even have a job as an actor or a stand-up comedian. I mean, I just had graduated college, and that was my first job. And so I left, but I needed money. And I couldn't find another job, and I had rent to pay. I had a roommate, but I had my half to pay. So after 2 weeks of just trying to get temp jobs, I needed the half a day's pay that I had earned. So what I did was a long story, but I make it very short.
No, please do. I'm in.
My roommate was Carl Gottlieb, who was later to write Jaws,
right,
and all the Jaws movies. So that was
and
my
the
roommate.
Jerk.
And the Jerk, yeah. Oh, you guys are up on it. Okay,
I love the Jerk. I was raised on the Jerk.
What he would do is he had a job then of just reviewing movies for very small paper, like a neighborhood newspaper. But he reviewed it with all the big, like Time and Life and New York Times. And what they would do to show these movies to the reviewers, the big time reviewers, was you would get some wine, and then they would have these the frozen shrimp, the cold shrimp, the bowls of cold shrimp. So that was every he did about 3 or 4 movies a week. So what he would do with Carl and you had to wear a suit in those days to review movies. You had to wear a suit. So he had this one suit, and what he would do, and they had real napkins, not paper napkins, but real napkins. So what he would do is he'd have his little wine right before the movie. He'd get a handful of shrimp. Just grab a handful of shrimp with a little linen napkin, and he would put the shrimp in a little napkin, twist it, and put it in his pocket, and that was my dinner for the night.
Oh my God.
He was stealing food for me. So what I would do is I would save the napkins. I would eat the shrimp, but I would save the napkins. Well, after a couple of weeks, there was napkins all over the place.
I bet that smelled great, Larry.
Yeah.
Well, you're getting to the end of the story, which was what I did was I tied all the napkins, because I would hang them around, I didn't throw them out. I just keep them. I just wanted to see how many meals I had. That was the way to count. And so I tied them all together, and I made a sling. I made a circle, and I put my arm in it, like I had a broken arm. And then went back to the little old ladies after about 3 weeks. And they go, oh, what happened to you? Oh, my God, goodness. And oh, what happened to your arm? And I said, well, I left for lunch. I was hit by a car. And so I've been in the hospital, and I can't use I'm a lefty, so I can't use the pencil. And but I need the half a day's pay. So they gave me cash.
They were like, was it a shrimp truck?
And very soon after that, to get to the point, I don't know who gave me that answer about the smell, but after about, I think about 2 or 3 days after that event where I went back and got the cash, Carl said he wasn't going to do it anymore. And I go, why, man? He goes, because my suit smells of fish. That's why. It was his only suit, and we had no money to get it dry cleaned.
Oh, yeah. That's putting shrimp in your pocket. It's not going to ever go well.
In all seriousness, when you think about your job as a...
Oh, that wasn't serious enough for you?
No, but I mean, as an actor...
I was dead serious, man. I needed that money.
You have to eat.
Me starving isn't serious.
Joke?
As an actor, does it ever feel like it's a job, or does it always feel like you get to do something you just enjoy and love and are sort of playing and you get paid for it?
All of that and more. It depends on the job and the people, because it's a job. I mean, it's a job.
Yeah.
You get hired, you go in, you work with people. Well, different jobs, different people, different, is it a comedy? Is it serious? Do I have a lot of lines to forget, or do I have a little line that I can remember. So, you know, and then how it goes. Like with Escape from Alcatraz, which I was on for 3 months, just hanging with Clint Eastwood and Don Siegel.
Yeah.
That was great. That was amazing. That was just and I was getting a lot of money, man. I got a lot of money. So, and it was my favorite. The director Don Siegel liked me.
Yeah.
So if the director likes you, and it was a major movie. So our relationship was like a grandfather to a grandson.
Okay.
Don Siegel to me. So he was always, and I was just in awe of the whole thing, the money involved, and it was a tentpole movie, and Clint Eastwood and blah blah blah. So I would always go into work even if I didn't have a scene for 3 months. I would just show up because I could explore Alcatraz. You know, I didn't have to hang out with the movie people. I mean, there was a fucking prison, man.
Yeah.
You know, this iconic prison, probably the most famous prison on earth, actually.
Yeah.
Really. Except for the Black Hole of Calcutta. That probably. I didn't know it at the time, but I had a major part. Because when I saw the screening, you know, they had the cast screening, and you go to see the movie that you've been working on, and I had like co-star Billy. I didn't know that. I mean, I just looked at the movie and go, what the fuck? I'm serious. Co-starring Larry Hankin. I didn't know that the whole time, the whole 3 months I was on there. I just thought I was like, you know, one step up from an extra, you know, Charlie Butts. That was the down part. So that's what I'm saying. So it was really great. I'm telling you how great it was. But there was a downside because I was the butt of the jokes because of Charlie Butts.
Butts are always fun.
So then Clint would start. Oh, hey, let's make fun of Charlie Butts. So that was the down part of it. And I had to take it, man, until I got really fed up to it. I fed up with it. So we were playing poker, and they look up, and there's this somebody was behind me. They were all looking up behind me. I look around, and it's Don Siegel, and he's standing there. And when I look behind me, he says, "What are you doing, Larry?" He was always very serious. What are you doing, Larry? But here's the thing: when they say my name, it's not a good thing. Not a good thing. You know, so, what are you doing, Larry? And I go, I'm just playing cards. I'm not up. My scene isn't for 2 hours. He said, yeah, but it's your crying scene. So I'm playing cards. I said, well, okay, fine. You know, I want to get back to the game. They're all waiting there with their cards. You know, it's a crew, man. And so he goes, well, I have to know if you're going to cry. It's an important scene. And he's really serious. And I'm going, what the hell, man? Well, yeah, okay. I mean, I guess I can cry. He said, you guess you can cry? I go, yeah. I mean, I haven't cried. Well, I think you better find out. I mean, if you can't cry, I think you just better get in your dressing room and slap yourself silly until you can cry. That's a direct quote. I go, and the other guys are, you know, just, what's going on? And he's saying, so, you know, I need you to cry, Larry. This is important. So I thought, oh, okay. You know, it's the director. It's a big movie.
Yeah.
Okay. He says, hey, you're going to cry now, right? Yeah. Okay. He splits. So then I say to everybody, okay, look, I guess I got to go and practice crying. Okay. And I put my cards down. You know, luckily I think I was losing $5 or something like that. Said, I'm out, you know. Okay. So I go to my dressing room. I'm literally, I don't know how to cry, man. There's nothing worth crying about, except maybe if you break up, you know, with a girl. But other than that, so I go and I'm slapping myself around. I'm doing what he said. I'm slapping, but nothing. You know, my face getting red, but nothing. And then finally, so I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. And then there's a knock on the door. Okay, Larry, you're up. So I go, and I don't know what to do, man. So on the way to walking to the set, to my cell where I'm going to cry, I figure out how I can get around it. okay, the backstory. I got if I had a backstory where I didn't cry. So on the way, I say on the way to the set, where's Don Siegel? I got to talk to the director now, immediately. So they find him, and he's very open to this. So he comes over to me, Don Siegel, and he goes, "Oh, Larry, what's the matter?" So I said, "I got to talk to you about the crying scene." So he says, "Okay, fine," and he's into it. He pulls me aside, away from everybody. He says, "What's going on?" My character wouldn't cry in this scene. Really? How come? Well, the backstory. See, in my backstory, I thought about, he comes from his passive-aggressive family, so he holds things in, and he wouldn't cry under any circumstance. Okay, and he turns in for his girl Friday, Carol, who is this girl, a woman who carries around his scripts and his notes and stuff like that, his assistant. She says, "Carol, would you come over here for a second?" She's talking to somebody, comes over, says, "Yeah, Larry, tell her what you just told me." Now, both of us don't know what the hell's going on. So he's standing there, and I'm saying, "Well, I have a backstory, blah, 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 and I'm passive-aggressive, so my character wouldn't cry in this scene." And so she turns to him, and she says, "Okay." And he says, "Carol, would you tell me what the fuck he is talking about?" He says, "Larry, I need, I got a big movie here. I got a big fucking movie here. There's the whole movie. And you know what I got in this movie? I got 200 prisoners, just 200 just bottled up testosterone. And all they want to do is two things. They want to get out of here or they want to fight. So I need another emotion. I need another emotion somewhere." And he's pointing up to the ceiling of the overhang of the theater. And it's Alcatraz. He says, "I got a big movie here, and you know where I need somebody to cry? I need another kind of emotion right there. Right there. You know whose scene that is right there? That's your scene, Larry." Right. Now you're going to cry. You got it? And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Thank you." And he walks away, and Carol follows him. Man, I'm going to get fired, This is early in the movie. I got like 2.5 more months to go. I figured, I'm going to get fired. Okay. And so I talked myself into it so that when it happened, I wouldn't get depressed. I'd be ready for it.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, "You're going to get fired. You're going to get fired. Okay. Just hang in there, man. It's just another job. Just another job." I get in and he says, "Are you ready to cry, Larry?" That's the first thing he said. "You ready to cry, Larry?" Yeah, I'm ready to cry. I'm not going to cop to it. So I get in the cell, and he gets the camera right up close. If you remember the scene at all, it's just a choker, man.
Yeah. Just your
right
face.
There.
Yeah.
Boom, and he pushed it in. And he goes, "Okay, you ready to cry, Larry?" Yeah, I'm ready to cry. Okay, and everybody's standing around now because that word, about the fight we had, about what the fuck is he talking about, that got around to the crew. So they all came around. Now I got an
Is Larry really going to cry?
Yeah. So, you know what? That as I'm walking over to the AD, walking over to the scene, the AD said that to me. He said, "So, are you going to be able to cry?" People
are taking bets, placing odds.
Right.
Are you going to cry, Larry? Larry cried. It's 3-1 that Larry just can't squeeze a drop.
So I sit down. And he goes, "Okay, you ready?" I go, yeah. And he goes, "Okay, and action, camera, and Larry, cry, action." And I go, and nothing.
Nothing came.
Cut. Okay, he says, "Hey, Ralph, bring it in." He's like, nothing. He says, "Hey, Ralph, bring it in." So this big bohunk of a crew guy comes over, and he's got this grandmother's perfume bottle in his hand with the bulb.
Yeah.
And he sticks it in. The camera stops here, like here, and he sticks it in here, and he just goes, and this spray comes right by my eyes. And I say, "Hey, what's this?" And he says, "It's wintergreen, Larry. Roll camera, action. Larry, cry." And tears are starting to come down.
They made it happen. Hollywood movie magic.
And he goes, "Cut. Larry, that was great." And everybody gives me applause.
And you're like, you couldn't have...
Terrific. And I go, man, why didn't you say something? You know, I go, why didn't you tell? Because he had it in mind the whole time from the card game. So that's what I'm telling you. The whole 3 months I was being put on. And I thought, in the band, when the crew saw that, you know, they were standing around and I cried. They go, okay, Larry is now open fair for putting him on.
So just old school movie hazing.
Clint and the crew just were merciless.
Oh, boy.
So, but I was doing a scene with Clint. All my scenes were with Clint Eastwood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was just like Buddy or his puppy. I don't know what. But so we're talking, and there was a ritual that Clint and Don Siegel had because they'd done 5 movies together. So after each take, Don Siegel would come up. He would come from behind the camera, walk over to Clint, right next to him. So it's just me and Clint in the scene, and he would walk over to Clint, and then the two of them would face each other and talk like I wasn't there. Like, it pissed me off after a while because every scene he would do that, and you know I'm now into it about a month and a half or 2 months, and I don't exist every time. And Clint would only do one take. He only wants to do one take. If you want to do another take, you have to have a really good reason. So Don Siegel comes up to us two, and then he shuts me out, and he goes, so Clint, how is that for you? And Clint would always say, that's fine with me. And then Don would say, okay, moving on. One take, you move on. So I'm used to this, but he would always ignore me. And one time he comes over, he says, Clint, how is that for you? That was okay for me. And just as he said that was okay for me, and Don Siegel was going to yell, okay, moving on, I butted in and I said, well, I'd like to do it again because I think I can do it better. And there's this like silence. And then Clint says, well, I don't think I can do it better. And he walked away. And Don Siegel said, moving on. And one day, about 3 weeks later, it happened. Clint Eastwood said exactly the same thing that I had said. I mean, I don't even think he knew that he said that, but it was like a trigger in me. Don Siegel comes up and he says, how is that for you, Clint? And Clint said, very matter-of-factly, I'd like to do it again. I think I can do it better. And I said, well, I don't think I can. And
fuck you, Clint.
And I'm walking away, and there's dead silence. And we're on a tier. So the only door is down there about 100 feet, easy. And I just kept walking, man. And I said, okay, I'm fired, but I'm out of the barrel. I don't care. I can't take this crap anymore. And I kept on walking, and there's silence back there. Because when Clint walked away, the crew laughed. So that's what I was expecting, the crew to laugh. But no. And I'm walking, and the door is getting further and further away. And then finally, I get to the door, and just as I'm about to walk out, I said, I don't care. I don't care if I'm getting fired. I just can't take it anymore. I hear Clint say, hey, Larry, come on back, man. He said, a big joke. Come here. So okay, fine, because I didn't want to be fired. So I walked all the way back, but I was out of the barrel. So the rest of the time, nobody.
That was it.
That's awesome.
But, I mean, so that's a long answer to your question. Is it fun to be in the movies or is it not fun? Well, on that one, it was both because there's very highs and lows. You know?
So we've been talking about Billy Madison in this episode. Okay. What was the experience like on that set? What was that?
That was fucking awful.
Okay, tell us. We want it all. Tell us why. Because I mean, you'd think that like it's from the outside looking in, right? Like it's a comedy. It's very light. You were an improv guy, right? I mean, you've done a fair amount of improv, and it seems like the kind of movie where there might be opportunities for that. Okay,
let's go there. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm a comic improviser. I know comedy. I'm in all these comic roles, and I don't think Adam Sandler is funny at all.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
I've never heard that. I've never heard anybody say Adam Sandler's not funny.
Okay.
Well, we have two different senses of humor.
Okay.
He knows what's funny for his crowd.
Right.
His crowd is not my crowd. I'm not in his crowd. Let me put it that way. because he's got a big crowd.
His crowd was 14-year-old boys at the time, which was us.
That was us.
Yeah. So, at the time when we saw Billy Madison, we were between 13 and 16, and it was the funniest fucking thing we ever seen.
and guys like you would come up to me and say, "Hey, man, I grew up." You know,
Yeah.
Really, and what? Adam Sandler and Billy Madison. How many times have you watched it? 175 times. That's what I get. I mean, I don't think you don't look like a guy who watched it 175 times.
I've not watched it. I took a long break. I probably watched it a dozen back in my teen years, and then and this is one of the comments that we, and maybe you can help us think about this a little too. I mean, one of the things that we were talking about before you came on was the fact that it's a weird thing to have, in this case, comedy at a certain time in your life. And we were teenagers and it was really funny. I mean, the comedy album to us at 13, his first comedy album was incredible. And at 15, right, Nudie Magazine Day was the funniest fucking thing that could ever come out of anyone's mouth, right? So one of the things that we sort of were reflecting on, and I was saying was when I listen to the album, especially now, and even to some extent when I hear the lines from the movie in my head from Billy Madison, I still chuckle and I kind of get a funny feel because I remember the feeling of laughing then. But when I watch it again now, and I'll admit, there are still things in Billy Madison that I like and that I think are funny, but it doesn't feel the same to me as it did then, right? And so one of the things I love about movies and TV in general is that for good and for bad, right? It's a little bit bittersweet because there's times when there are things that just strike you in a certain way and you never get that back. And I loved it. I took great joy in Billy Madison and Adam Sandler's comedy at that time in my life. And I can't go back and recapture that by watching it again now, which a lot of movies you can recapture. And it sounds like you were not in that demographic at the time.
Ever.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about because I've had the same feeling because right now, we'll talk about that later or whatever, but I'm writing a book. I've been in show business all my life, ever since I graduated college. So that's 19 or however you are.
Yeah.
A little old I was. So I'm writing this book. Now I finished the book, but the book has a span of, let's say 50 years.
Okay.
45, 50 years, something like that. Okay, so I finished the book, and now you got to proofread it, all the typos and stuff.
Yeah,
so you put it in a drawer for a couple of weeks. Now you read it. Now you have a totally different point of view. You are now an adult reading about what you did when you were a kid or younger. For at least 10 of those at least 30 of those, 40 of those pages, that's the first 10 years I was in show business.
Right.
So that's like you watching Billy Madison as an adult, and I'm saying, how the hell did I do this stuff? Or how did I think of that? Or why did I do that? Or why didn't I do something?
Yeah.
So I understand totally, and that's fresh in my mind because I just sent the manuscript out 2 weeks ago.
Since we're talking about it, I want to hear. Let me just ask, real quickly, what's the title of the book, and when do you think we might actually get our hands on it?
I love the title of the book.
Oh, I'm a titles guy. I like to make up titles for books.
What would you title the book? For the hell of it.
What would I title the book?
Take one guess.
I might. What do you something like?
It's actually
the guy, that guy, or something like that, or.
You got it.
That's the title. That guy. Oh,
are you serious?
Yeah, that's what I think of. Larry Hankin he's that guy. Everybody knows who you are.
Literally,
so it's the right title. So I'm very glad that you guessed it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Perfect title. That guy, because that's what everybody says. Hey man, you're that guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I figure, well, might as well. It took me months. I was for months. I was trying to figure out what the hell the title is. So I just forgot about it. Wrote the book.
Right.
And then when I read the book, I go, that guy. Got to be that guy.
Well, when's it come out?
Well, hopefully in 6 months from today.
Okay.
That's the ballpark figure, but it's that guy. And it's really good because I've handed it out to friends and then to, agents. and they all love it. They really think it's really good.
I'm going to pre-order my copy on Amazon.
Yeah, sounds like right before Christmas will be a nice little stocking stuff.
I got a bunch of Christmas.
Just get that before Christmas would be great.
Well, kind of relating to that, going to the Billy Madison set, did you kind of feel like you were the adult and it was kind of, I mean, no offense to your castmates and stuff, but I mean, it was kind of like kids and you were kind of the adult in the room, and then it was like you're kind of having to deal with.
Yeah, yes. I thought the only reason I was in that movie was because one of my best friends, Steve Kessler, was the director, the original director. He was taken off. He was fired. And I was about to be fired, too. So I went to, he called me, Steve Kessler called me and said, hey, man, I just got a major motion picture. Oh, yeah, what? Adam Sandler's first movie. And I go, but congratulations. You know, I'm happy for you, man. That's a major motion picture. Yeah. And at the time, he really was king of Hollywood. I mean, to this day, he can get any movie made he wants.
Yeah, Netflix will just they'll just film him for any 2-hour stretch and put it on.
He's a really good actor. He's just not funny. To me, I mean, his serious roles are really good.
Oh,
have you watched Uncut Gems?
Uncut Gems, Punch Drunk Love, Spanglish, those are all great.
Yeah, I like a lot of those. Great. Yeah. Other than not relating to the comedy, was it a difficult set to be on, or was he easy to work with, or was it enjoyable? Or
no, it was not enjoyable at all. And then there's no joke to it. It was just not enjoyable. It was very hard for me.
Yeah,
because we had different senses of humor. So what he thought was funny, I didn't think was funny. What I thought was funny, he didn't think was funny. So I couldn't make up anything. I couldn't improvise. I couldn't suggest lines because he had written, with the script with his friends. And I didn't think the script was funny at all, but I told my friend, Steve, I said, well, congratulations. But, and I was thinking, wow, he's going to have a hard job. And then I didn't have a job for a while because I was auditioning at the time. So I went to him and I said, put me in the movie. And he said, why? And I said, because you're my best friend, man.
That's what friends do.
That's why. And he goes, well, and my hair, I was a hippie then. My hair was down to here. And he said, well, you're a hippie. And I go, so what? So I could be a businessman, I'm a businessman. And it was the fashion back in the 60s and 70s to have ponytails. All the businessmen had ponytails. So I'll just put up in a ponytail. He says, no, you have to get a businessman cut.
Yeah, clean cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he said, and I go, no, I'm not going to do that. So he said, well, then you're not in the movie. I said, but you're my best friend. I'm your best friend, and I'm the director. Cut your hair. Your best friend is not going to put you in the movie. So, no. And he was really adamant. And it was his first movie. I understand. He had to, make his territory known and be the director. I said, okay, fine, man. Okay. So I walked. And then I that night, I wrote, I still have it. I think it may be in the book. I think it might be in the book, but I wrote down my feelings about that. And what I wrote was, I just give you the first line. Bob Dylan says there's no such thing as selling out. That was the opening line. Well, Bob Dylan thought I was funny.
Really?
So he brought me to his agent.
I think I'd start every story with that, Larry. Just be like, well, Bob Dylan thinks I'm funny. So,
well, he did. I mean, he hung out, a little up in Bearsville, and we were gonna write something together. Him and the band. I was gonna write a movie, and they were gonna play the music.
Are you kidding?
In the band, we were gonna do the music. So they came and they said, hey, you write the screenplay, we'll do the music.
Yeah.
I said, fine. So, so I did. I wrote the movie and I handed it in, and they wanted to do it. They were all for it. And then they went to Warner Brothers, who was Robbie Robertson's music people. Maybe Columbia Records. So they said, no, they won't give us the money for the movie. They said, we'll give you the money to hire a writer to write the movie. In other words, I was paid to write a movie, thousands of dollars. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I thought, well, they're rock and roll. What do they know? So I wrote the screenplay, and then they liked it. They approved of it, Dylan and the band. And then they took it to Columbia, and they said, no way. So they called and they said, hey, man, it's off. So, damn, it was a great movie. It really was. It was very weird. It was Dylan-esque. Yeah. It was flashing images. That's what kind of turned him off, because he was just getting out of, his folk flashing images,
right,
and going into stories and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the first artists to really do music videos. I mean, he was into that way before.
Yeah, he got the idea for it, and that's why he came to me. Dylan did, and Bobby Newart, who's just as funny as I am. Bobby Newart is the funniest guy I know. So they came and they said, hey, we want you to write this. And then Dylan talked out what he wanted. Well, it's going to be in a bar, and there'll be Sammy Davis tap dancing on the bar, and the wallpaper will be all newspapers. And right about then, and then we were in the bar sitting, he's rapping this out to me over a beer. He's saying, and the newspapers and Sammy Davis Jr. And they're sitting across from me in the booth, and Newart just goes like this to him. And they're both facing, he doesn't know what the fuck you're talking about. And it was true. I had no idea. My face must have been just like, he stopped my mind. What? So he said, okay. He said to Newark, forget it. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But I'll get in touch with you. That's what he said to me. I'll get in touch with you. And then they left. And I thought, oh, my God, my hero. My hero. He wanted me to write a movie for him, and I didn't understand a word he was saying. And my hero shows up, says, let's go have a beer while we talk. I mean, it's like, Clint Eastwood or whoever your hero is.
Yeah. Say,
hey, let's have a beer together. Yeah. And then he goes, okay, flashing images, disconnect. Oh, what?
See, with stories like that, this book is going to be outstanding. Yeah.
I can't wait to read it. So I gotta ask you. I'll never forgive myself, and if I don't ask you about one role, and my sister will never forgive me if I don't ask you about the other. So the first one is Breaking Bad's probably my favorite show all time.
Yeah, me too.
Is it okay? So that's actually
role. I love the people. The script was great.
It's so good.
Audition was easy. They just asked me to read 3 or 4 lines.
So were you a fan? Were you a fan of the show before you were on it?
Yeah.
So was it pretty cool to get the call?
Oh man, I mean, it was like Bob Dylan. It was like Bob Dylan.
I get that.
Really, because Vince Gilligan is up there,
know.
And pantheon. And Breaking Bad is you binge watch that.
Yeah.
You're
I've
glued to
I've watched it. I probably watched
it.
You asked if I watched Billy Madison 112 times. I might have watched Breaking Bad 112 times.
Well, there you go. So, I watched my part a couple of times.
Yeah.
I watched, but I did good, and it was a good scene, and then I did El Camino after that. Yeah. So, but I just loved, again, anything that Vince Gilligan wanted me to do. That was it, so I was ecstatic. And then, but I have this thing in me. I don't know what it is. I mentioned it to you before. I won't cop to anything that I may not be able to do, like crime. I won't admit it. And I did have one of those moments with old Joe in Breaking Bad.
Okay.
It worked out, but it was a close call. On my first day, the audition scene was where I go into the Winnebago. Brian is in there, and he's going to sell me the Winnebago. He wants me to crush it. He wants me to get rid of it. So I just take his money and I split, and that was the audition scene.
Okay.
And it's I think 3 or 4 lines. I didn't even have to memorize it or make a backstory for it. You just go in, you do it.
No passive aggressive family background.
Old Joe, boom. So again, I did it, and I thought I did a really good job, and so did Brian, and so did the director. But anyway, I did a good job, and I felt very good, and I was very happy, and everybody was very happy. We did one take. Brian loved it. Boom. I said, wow. So that was my hero, my great, because Brian was my hero too. And so I was ready to go home. And then they said, wait, Vince liked your audition tape so much, he wrote you another scene, which we'll do in the afternoon.
Ooh.
And I go, wow, I'm dyslexic. I'll tell you guys, I'm dyslexic. So dyslexia comes in very different packages, but one of the things of my package was memory. So if it's a couple of lines, fine. If it's a page, like an essay, a monologue,
You need time.
I need a week at least,
Okay.
minimum a week. So I go, oh, wow, where is it? He said, it's in your dressing room. I go in my dressing room. It's a monologue. It's a full page. And that's the sound. So I didn't know what to do, but I would not cop to it because I knew I couldn't memorize it. So the AD was with me when he said he wanted to show me that he had placed it on my dressing room table. So he went with me, and he goes, "There it is." And I picked it up, and it's a page. And I go, "Is this it?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "No." I started to lose it. I mean, I go, "No, I can't do this. No." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "No, and he said, "I got to leave," because I was discombobulated. I mean, I just didn't know what to do. You could see I was going through something, and he didn't want to be there. So he said, "I got to leave." And he split. I said, "How long do I have?" He said, 2 hours. And he left. So I'm trying to memorize it. I couldn't do it. And then the guy comes back. He says, "You're up. Let's go." I go, "Oh, man." And he said, what do you think? Do you think you can memorize it? Because he was there when I said I couldn't.
Yeah, right.
I said, yeah, I got it. He said, "Oh, okay, fine."
Got it all right here.
Yeah, I'm not going to cop to it. Can you cry? Yeah, I can cry. So, can you ride a horse? Yeah, I can. So I'm walking there, and I come up with the answer. Another excuse. I figured out a way around it. So I get to the director, and he goes, "So you're all set?" Now, I did a really good job in the morning, right? So he's looking forward to another great thing with a monologue with Larry. He did a great job this morning. It's going to be easy. And there's a limo parked right next to the camera because we're in a junkyard, So there's a limo parked right alongside the camera. And he says to me, "Well, oh, great, Larry." And I say, "Okay, listen, can I just say something first?" So he goes, yeah, what? I said, "I know how to shoot this scene," which takes him aback a little. You know how to shoot this scene? I don't think an actor has ever said that to anybody, especially a director who's directing it. Scene. I said, "I know how to shoot the scene." Really? How do we shoot this scene, Larry? Remember when they say my name, I know it's not.
Yeah.
He's not on my side. He doesn't want to know how I'm going to shoot it. But he said, "Okay, how do we shoot it, Larry?" It was keeping the cop out of the Winnebago. That was the scene.
Right.
Where the cop is standing there, and you can't go in there because, and it's all legalese. That was the other frightening thing. It's all legalese.
Right.
So he says, "Or how do we shoot?" I said, "We break it up. See, we shoot him, and then we shoot back." And I'm figuring I can memorize the sections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While shooting him, I can. So he goes, and I said, "So when we shoot it, and how about that?" And he goes, Yeah, I see what you're saying, Larry. But no, we're just going to do a walk and a talk. We're going to do it all in one shot.
Oh.
You get there, you go down there about 50 feet, walk towards the camera, you talk, and you end it right by the camera, and we'll just do a rack focus, and then you get in the limo and you go back to the production office, and you're finished in one take, and you're home. Okay, we'll fly you home. And I go, okay. Yeah. Okay. Really. He says, "Okay, get down there 50 feet. So I walk down there, and he goes, "Okay, you ready, Larry?" Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, and action. And I know the first line. I figure I'm an improviser. You guys know I'm an improviser. So I figured I'll improvise the whole thing.
Get the gist
So
of
I start walking and talking, you know. Now, and in my mind, the only thing I have that I can't stutter, no ums, no ers, keep on talking, and it's got to be legal. And keep them out of the Winnebago. And go. And I said the first line, you can't go in the Winnebago because blah, blah, blah. And I'm talking. Don't stutter. Just keep talking all the way down to the camera. And I remembered the last line. And I say the last line, and I forget, and now I'm going to get fired. And he goes, okay, Larry, let's do it one more. That's in the can. Let's just get some coverage, okay? Get back there. Let's do it again. Reset. So I don't have to worry now. I can just screw up. I can stutter. He's got it in the can. Okay. So I go back. Now I'm drunky jolly. I go back. He says, okay, you ready, Larry? Yeah. He says, okay. And instead of saying cut, I see the script lady walking towards me, and she's got the book and a pencil. Script girl, she's responsible for, so if you leave out a word, or a sentence, she'll circle it, she'll come, you didn't say this thing, so we'll either do a pickup on this, or we'll have to do the whole thing over again, but it's that long that you left out. So I say, okay, what did I forget? So she shows me the page, every fucking word is circled.
She's like, I don't know what you memorized.
Every word is. I've never seen a page like that. I've been acting 40 years. Never seen it. So I say to her in self-defense, well, yeah, but I got the gist of it. And she says, the director wants you to say it verbatim. And she said it like that, And I go, oh. And then I hear the director yell, anything wrong, Larry? No.
This is great. Perfect.
Fine. And I go back to her, and I see him walking towards me. So 2 people walking from the camera, and they're saying Larry. It's not good. That's not good. So he comes up to me and says, what seems to be the problem here? And he's got his book, too. So she shows him the page, and he said, I got the gist of it. He said, let's just do it again, okay? And let's just do it verbatim, okay? And I go, okay, fine. Okay. And then this cameraman yells, hey, Sid, what's going on? He says, I'm going to walk with my actor. And I go, oh, no, man. So I'm thinking, this is kindergarten now. He's going to walk. He's going to hold my hand and feed me lines while I don't want to do this. I want to be here. I want to be fired. So bad.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe at the end of this I'll be fired. But this is not good. And I don't want Vince to know anything about this.
Right.
So he goes, okay, ready, and action, Larry. And I just do the exact same thing I did before. I say the first line, and I just make it up. I just improvise it. I don't stutter. I just improvise it all the way down. I get to the end. I say the last thing, and I go, okay, well, and I'm just waiting to be fired. And he said, okay, that's a wrap for Larry. Larry's wrapped, everybody. Okay. And I drive away, and I go, what the hell just happened? I have no idea, man. And I had to wait 2 weeks before the show aired.
Oh, you didn't even know.
I had no idea. I mean, I was improvising. She circled every word. I just did not the exact same thing because you can't improvise the exact same thing. It's just a flow, you just got to get a flow. So I flowed law talk, but I was making it up the same way. And he just said, thank you very much, Larry's wrapped. He didn't explain anything. He didn't say anything. He opened the door for me in the car, and he said, thank you, Larry.
You literally shot the scene, finished, cut. The director opened the door and put you in the limo.
Put me in a limo, and I drove back, and I had to wait, and there was no, and then I did my regular. I got out of my costume, I drove home, or they flew me home. I had to wait 2 weeks, and I told all my friends, to watch, not because I was on, watch me, I'm on Breaking Bad, but to watch my scene because I'm going to ask him a question about it. That's what was my instruction.
Yeah.
Watch Breaking Bad. So I watched it and I was blown away because this is what the director knew and I didn't. Okay. You see me, I get down there and I say the first line.
Yeah.
That's the line that was never, blah, 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 blah. And then they cut to the cop and you hear me talking over.
Right.
Say, legalese, you can't go in there. And then they cut inside and I'm still talking outside. So
right.
They hear me outside. And there's Aaron and there's Brian and they cut to the cop again outside. And then they cut to me because I said something right on, just one sentence right on.
Right.
And then not written, but right on to the scene that's
right.
keeping them out. And then back to the cop, back to Brian, Aaron, Brian, cop, Brian, Aaron, me one more line, Brian, cop, Aaron, cop, Brian, me one line, and Brian, cop, finished last line, 4 lines, each line a minute, 2 seconds, to 8 seconds. I'm in the scene, 8 seconds. What he did was, and he knew it from the second line I opened my mouth on the first time, because the director had written that scene. So he knew I was making it up. And he never do it either. But what he did was he saw that what I was making up at least fit the scene I was doing.
Right.
I was saying legal things to keep the cop
right.
out of the Winnebago. Not what he had written, but it was keeping the cop out of the Winnebago. And he just edited it together as a voiceover. He cherry-picked lines to fit the length of the scene, and I'm in the scene 8 seconds. And the rest is my improv in a voiceover on the stars and the main characters. And I asked my friends, and I said, what did you see? Oh, you were walking and talking towards the thing, and you're keeping the cop out of the Winnebago. No, what did you see? I saw you walking and talking towards the Winnebago, and you were keeping the cop out of the Winnebago, and they were inside. No, that's not what you saw. And I asked all my friends, and they said the same thing. You're walking. No, you only saw me 8 seconds. The entire scene was the cop and inside the Winnebago. That's all. And every once in a while, when I said something pertinent, or just to make sure that the audience didn't question where the voice is coming from, they shot to me. So I came out smelling like a rose.
So what's funny about that, Larry, is that like my memory of your entire role on that show fits the sort of basic dynamic, because when when we talked about bringing you on, the very first thing I thought of was this role, because I'm such a big Breaking Bad fan, and I thought, man, I mean, it's amazing. He was on this huge portion of the show, and he's this regular character. I mean, that was in my head. No exaggeration. I thought Larry's he's a fixture, of the Breaking Bad universe. And I looked and I thought, wait a minute, he's only in 2 episodes. And of course, I know you're on El Camino. And I said, no way, he's only in 2 episodes. I literally thought it was a mistake. I thought, I'm not hitting the correct expand button on IMDb. Why the fuck do I not see all the episodes Larry's on? But it is exactly what you said. It sort of, that's a microcosm of the bigger thing, which is, even though you're only in 2 episodes and at that only in a couple scenes, you get these. I mean, the scene with the Winnebago is
hella tense.
Arguably the biggest turning point, and like it's the thing that sets things in motion much later, right? Where Hank, is so irate.
Stuff and all that.
He beats the shit out of Jesse, and so then the Winnebago becomes this big. So for me, I think it's interesting that the scene came about that way, even for you, where you were like, I don't even and he made it feel like you were in the scene for minutes when you were in like you said, for 8 seconds.
When I do podcasts, that's what the podcasters tell me.
Yeah,
they say, you're in small scenes, but it seems like you're in the movie.
Well,
and there's nothing, that's just something. I don't do that. That's
Well,
That's just
I think it's the same thing you said about your book, right? It's, you're just telling stories. You don't realize it's funny until later. I think you don't know you do that. But I mean, I think there's something about the character of what you're doing that just draws people in a certain way. And so that, it's incredibly memorable, and the delivery is really memorable in a way that you just, sort of, you can't and don't want to sort of look away from the character you're playing. And to that point, and I'll like I said, so my sister Amy and Zach here's wife Lisa are the two biggest fans of the show Friends, that I think they just play on a loop in their apartments.
Mr.
right now.
Heckles.
And Mr. Heckles, right, is another one, and you're of course on a bigger set of episodes there. But also another role that just feels like, sort of even bigger than it was.
Larry, when you tell, when they come to your room, and they say, or to your apartment, and they say, hey, we found this cat. Is this your cat? And you go, yeah, that's my cat. Oh, just super deadpan. And they slowly realize.
I get no copping to it. Either I cop to it is as a lie, or it isn't as a lie. Yeah, that's my cat.
It's so funny.
Yeah, but that's the writers, and the downside. It was not really a downside, but I mean, it's a great part. When they killed me with the heart attack, I really blew up. I mean, it was my fifth show, so the fifth. I don't know if you know the sixth show.
No
thing.
Please.
You get a bigger bump in pay. Yeah.
But if you can do 5 shows and they're all one-offs.
Gotcha.
The 6th show, you have become a recurring
character.
A recurring character. So the 6th show, you get paid a recurring salary, which means that you're guaranteed more episodes. So not only do you get a bump in pay for the 6th, but you generally get a 7th and an 8th. At least, not more. So I did the 5th show. So my agent called me and said, hey, I got good news and bad news. I go, well, what's the good news? He said, the good news is you got your 5th show on Friends, which he knew and I knew meant I'm one away from the bump.
Yeah.
And then I can put a down payment on a house.
Yeah.
Really? And it's like, oh, wow, that's great. What could be the bad news? You die in that.
Oh my gosh.
What? I didn't have to audition because I had done 5 shows, so they knew the character, just a call back for the character. So there's no going in beforehand. It's just show up for the rehearsal, which is a week away. So for a week, I just steamed, man. Those bastards. I just remember now just walking across the parking lot and going, so I see somebody walking around and say, hey, where is everybody? This is rehearsal. He said, oh no, today is the first day. All the shows, the first day they have a party, an opening in the new season. So it's upstairs, room 217. So I go upstairs, and sure enough, the big room, it's like and they have, a groaning board of the craft services, and the salmon and sausage and the scrambled eggs and the champagne.
And then those shrimp.
And then the full table, then the cold
full circle. Come full circle there, Larry.
And back to that. Where's Carl? So, and you got those small tables where you just stand with your drink and everybody. So there's about 100 people in the room. They invited other people from other, the CEOs and their kids. And so but I'm angry. I just come from the parking lot, man. I'm steaming. I'm dead. I'm not in this anymore. This is my last show. So I see the 3 producers are standing around the same table, which is just lucky for me. I can holler at them all 3 at the same time, one shot. So I just march. I spill them over to the table. I don't know. So they just look at me with a smile on their face. Oh, it's Mr. Heckles. Hey, hi, Larry. How you doing? They go, what the fuck did you just do, man? What? And everybody, no, what did you do? Really? Why? Why did you do that? Why? The first to recover instantly was the woman. There's 2 guys and a woman. And she just leaned in immediately. Could we talk about this a little later? And it just snapped me out of it, man. It just, if she had hollered, we would have fought right there.
Oh yeah.
But that, all of a sudden, taking it down and low and in, very close. I go, oh my God, what have I done? And I looked around, and everybody is staring this way. Nobody is talking. So I go, let's talk. And I just snapped into reality. Oh my God. So I just said, oh, okay, fine. And I just turned around, and I saw the craft services table, and I said, okay, just go over to the craft services table, just get a cup of coffee, just fade away. You know? I just wanted
Yeah.
So I started walking to the craft service table, and all the people at the craft services table just peeled away. Man. It's like the Moses in the sea. Just,
this guy's on one. We don't want to face his wrath.
Yeah, man. No, yeah. They just peeled away. And so I'm just standing there alone. I think, what should I do? And this kid comes up to me. It's just a perfect point to it all. This kid, he must have been about maybe 15. And he comes up to me, and he stands there, and he's staring up at me, and he goes, dude, that was so cool, man.
See,
thank you very much.
And that's that.
Dead in town, but yeah.
He's
So,
like, I love Billy Madison.
Yeah. So by the way, Billy Madison is fucking awesome.
Yeah, right. Yeah. How about that? Yeah. For the rest of the week, and I had to go into work every day.
Yeah.
For the rest of the week, and it was a horror trip for me. Just nobody would come near me. Nobody would talk to me.
Yeah.
It was just awful. The only person who would talk to me was the guy who wrote that episode, and I found him, and I wanted to know. I was very calm, but I said, did you write this episode? And he goes, yeah. And I go, why did you write me with a heart attack? Why did you do that, man? And he goes, no, I didn't. See, I'm a new guy. This is my first episode that I wrote on my own. I've been, I don't know what they call them, but, they bring in and you help write other things until you finally can stand on your own 2 feet. And he said, this is my first single episode that I wrote on my own. And I didn't know what to write about. I didn't know how that goes. So I went to the producer and I said, what should I write about? And they said, write about an episode that has your favorite character in it. It'll be easier to write, and write the episode about them and the character. So that gives you a focus. And he said, great. And Mr. Heckles is my favorite character. So I wrote the episode about Mr. Heckles, but I didn't write him dying. He wasn't dying in it. It was a funny ending. And then they came to me when I handed it in. They got to read it to okay it. And they came back to me and said, Chandler has been kicked out of the friend's apartment. And they didn't think ahead. They just said it was so funny, let's do it. And they didn't think ahead. Well, Chandler is still part of the regulars. If we kick him out of the apartment, how are we going to get him in every week? And so somebody said, well, give him Mr. Heckles' apartment. Mr. Heckles lives right across the hall from them. So we can always come over, to borrow sugar or talk to whoever. So just get rid of Heckles, give him a heart attack, and we can give Chandler the apartment. So it was just a fix. That there was no animosity involved.
And that kid wrote about his favorite character and then ended up having to kill him.
Wow. Yeah. So that was like, he says, I didn't want to kill you, but I had to, kill him. No, I can't.
Shitty week for both of you.
No.
Man.
Well, hey.
So I couldn't be mad at him. So I said, okay, good to know. Thanks a lot.
What? Hey, Larry, we've kept you around even longer than you promised us, and it was just absolutely terrific and such a pleasure to do. So thank you for coming on, and hey, we will make sure that we keep an eye out for that guy.
Yeah, when the book comes out, let's do it again.
Definitely.
Hey, you
There
got
we
it.
go.
Well, we'll do it again when the book comes out, and we'll make sure that we stock up so we get them for our friends and family for Christmas. So, but hey, really, truly a pleasure, and love the stories, love the perspective, and we appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Thank you. You guys are great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Larry.
Have a great day,
Okay.
Larry.
Hey, have a good rest of your
Okay.
day.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, folks, it is time now for some Shag Snag Body Bag.
Is it a one-night stand, or do you hit it with a shovel, or take it home to mom and dad? It's like fuck, marry, or kill. It's Shag Snack Body Bag.
I love
Is it a one-night stand?
We don't need to play that twice.
We could play it over and over again. I love Scotchback.
Scotchback. We miss you. I wish you were here with our little fun LA
Little
adventure.
LA adventure, yeah. So we're shagging first.
We are going to do our little shags first. So, Nate, what do you got on the shag?
So I'm going to do something a little bit unconventional here. I think I'm going to shag Adam Sandler's weird voice.
Oh.
So I'm going to say, like, I really,
Is it baby talk?
I don't think it's baby talk exactly. It's kind of a weird thing.
Are we talking the shampoo like scene in particular?
Yeah, yeah. So like and the reason I'm shagging it is because I don't want too much of it. But like in a small dose, I'll take it. So like, and I think that, it was, the difference is that like it gets old really quickly, but I get that the delivery has its place in time. So like when I was 15, that like weird, funny voice was the deal. And so I liked sort of like remembering, okay, if I allow myself to be 15 again, I'm in.
So at the risk of the imminent piggyback, I have nostalgia as like just period, underline, because when I watch this, it takes me back to being a young, getting into puberty boy, and just the dick humor and the, masturbation talk, and, talking about Veronica Von, so hot. Like that's the voice you're talking about, right? Like
Want to touch the
yeah,
hiney?
exactly. Like there's like so many of that, like weird, like it's different from like a Pauly Shore type of accent, and it's different from, I don't know, it's very weird, and it's very pointedly a voice and silly, and no one would ever be like that. But when you watch this movie, you're like, I mean, not that you think that any of it's like realistic or anything, but it works, right? I mean, it works well enough for the movie to be funny as shit.
My shag is field trips. Just reminiscing on my elementary days. There was nothing better when you bring that brown bag to school and you put it in the ice chest and they load it in the bottom of the bus and then you're going somewhere. Like, it just felt so fucking cool. It's like, we're leaving school, but this is school. So it's like school away from school, and like you're going to go somewhere mildly interesting. Sometimes really cool. Sometimes like whatever.
My son just went to 6th grade camp, just got back.
All in on that.
Dude, how fun was that?
And the bus ride, like I remember Brad, you remember the bus ride when we went to Monterey Bay Aquarium when we were in 8th grade? It was like just a trek. Like it felt like it was like 7 hours round trip in a day. We were probably at the aquarium for 2.5 hours, but the bus ride was like bananas. It was just, it felt like it was the coolest, most fun, most, like
a little taste of no parents around, but you're not in school. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
damn kids back there.
The older you got, like the more raunchy, of course, the conversations we get. And then, of course, then it started getting to the rumor central, like in junior high and stuff, where it's like, was somebody touching somebody in the back of the bus? Like, oh, they're the couple. What were they doing? Like, oh, there was some definitely like handsy play back there. Like that kind of stuff was always going down.
Most definitely. The teachers can't be looking back at all times.
Right. And you'd have maybe a few parent chaperones, but they always sit together and talk. And so like it was kind of rowdiness, and I just, I reminisce very fondly on all our field trips. And so I love the fact that getting on that bus with your little brown bag, it was time to go.
Even like high school, going to Disneyland and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Bus rides were,
that shit was wild.
Nowadays, like sitting in a bus, and I've actually chaperoned some events and stuff with my kids and things like that. It's just like
Painful.
It is very painful. But like back then it was like, we're going to be in a bus for like 4 hours, just like getting to talk and hang out. Like this shit's going to be great.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my shag.
So are we snagging?
We are snagging. Let's do some snagging.
So I'm going to start us off with the snag. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Is it
Do
cool?
it.
So we had to discuss previously about the quotes in this movie.
Yeah, we have not yet hit that, and that's a deep omission at this point.
Because there are so many that are still used in, I don't know, by kids today, by 40-year-old dudes today.
In my head, it's one a day.
Yeah. I wonder how many of these you throw out and your teenage daughter and her friends are like, what the fuck is your dad talking about? Like, why is he making that voice? Yeah.
Which is funny. One of my quotes that always sticks out to me, and anytime I see a box of Triscuits, but it's like the one time that Bradley Whitford's character kind of seems like, where he's like, well, why didn't you let me know? So then I could have enjoyed the tasty Triscuits as well. It's like just the seriousness of that conversation that he has. It's
And Bradley
pure joy.
Whitford, I mean, to point out, right, like he's in some, so he's in this and he's pretty funny, and he has some, and then has a long stint on West Wing where he's great.
Oh yeah,
but he's in Get Out.
Get Out
has an interesting role in that one,
Much different. I like him better there. But
and then he's in The Handmaid's Tale.
oh, and he's really good in that too.
Yeah, he's a really interesting.
But
career.
he's really good as like the bad guy that's a good guy.
yeah. Uh-huh.
It's that's
also
a good role. I forgot about that
and
one.
also good as the funny villain. Like in this one, he's just kind of a schmarmy guy.
He's telling him in Get Out, and he's like, I'd vote for Obama for another term if I could.
yeah, exactly.
So just since you brought it up, I'm going to run through my favorites. I'll do my best with intonation.
Your favorite quotes?
It's Nudie Magazine Day. It's Nudie Magazine. I mean, Brad was said earlier, like he remembers when I like got onto that quote, and it was a lot.
And it's
So
like,
It was said a lot of times.
I apologize for that trauma.
but he gets the magazines and it's like guzzling grandmas and like all sorts of like really weird like.
But the thing is, those
Like
were all
maids.
probably pretty close to like the actual titles of some of the
weird
legit
magazines.
porn magazines that were out there.
Back when you had to get porn in a magazine, there were some wild publications. I'm absolutely positive.
I am the smartest man alive. That one I think a lot. So hot, want to touch the hiney. Oh, you blew it. That one I say in my head a lot. If peeing your pants is cool, consider me Miles Davis.
That's a big one for me.
And then finally, everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I say that one.
That one is
weekly. It
applicable
applies
in a
everywhere.
lot of situations nowadays.
Stop looking at me, Schwan. I say that quite often.
I mean, in today's like political climate, that the quote from the game or the trivia competition, I mean, that gets thrown out on the regular, like in any type of political discussion and things like that.
Yeah, it's a great insightful quote. So I want to snag the Sandler, and this kind of was mentioned earlier, but the Sandler ensemble, right? So like in this movie, you got Buscemi, you've got we already talked about Woodford. He's not necessarily in a bunch of them, but like just in terms of the pure talent, you got Hankin, who we got to talk to. You've got Norm Macdonald. You've got Chris Farley.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
Double R.I.P.
Double R.I.P. So like, and that's who's missing from this one?
Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider.
Yeah.
Who comes up in a bunch of the later ones. So like,
Because this was so early, right? Maybe they weren't homies yet or something.
or just who knows? But like, Rob Schneider's character in Big Daddy.
Well, I have to assume.
kills.
I have to assume that, like at this point, after this, I mean, because people probably weren't sure. I mean, how an Adam Sandler vehicle is going to do. Like,
Yeah.
And then once it hits big, then it's like, okay, Adam Sandler
Everybody
now
wants
has
in.
carte blanche to do whatever the fuck he wants. Like with any character, he's going to get to bring on whoever he wants. His requests are going to be upheld as long as he's going to show up in their movie.
So I mean, to me, the thing that you get when you get an Adam Sandler movie, and this got mentioned earlier, right? In contrast to Jim Carrey with Ace Ventura, is you get a whole bunch of really, really funny actors doing their thing in little bits and pieces. And you get that here. I mean, Norm Macdonald's gold in this. Chris Farley is gold as the bus driver.
That's my snag was Chris Farley, just because, I mean, his delivery on his lines when he's just discussing and it shows that Chris Farley, as much as he was like, his slapstick stuff was so good, his just delivery of just regular lines.
The conversation about when my friend slept with her.
Yeah.
He's like, no, he didn't.
No, he didn't. Well, no, he didn't. But
You could imagine how good that would have been, right?
so yeah, no, everything about Chris Farley in this movie is great. And again, we always talk about, I mean, just a life cut way too short. It would have been fun to see like what he was going to do in the future, and if he would have evolved. I mean, that's the interesting thing, is always thinking like, is Adam Sandler semi-evolved? I mean, he definitely evolved in some form or another.
He's done some good dramatic roles, as discussed.
Like, would Chris Farley have gotten into some dramatic roles that were really like, oh goddamn, like, because I feel like he had it in him to act really well. I think he
I
had
think he did.
character.
I don't think he. I mean, you know, look at Rob Schneider, right? Like,
Nah.
never does.
No, not at all. Like, you just see something in just the way he's able to like just kind of portray himself, and like you're like little small part as the bus driver, but he carries some great conversations just through the way he's acting. So, Chris Farley for sure my snag there.
So we're body bagging.
It's time to unzip him.
So my body bag on this one is that kids treat each other just brutally. So like it's one of those reminders that like, and we were having some conversations, which I won't repeat on the drive down here to LA, about some of the same stuff, like where there's sort of a lot of bad hazing that was even worse than was in this movie. But like, I guess I on the one hand, right, like I think sometimes the humor of doing certain things, gets over criticized, but this might not be an area. Like it's cringe. It makes me cringe, like to see the way that like we laugh at kids, like really traumatizing other kids. And there's a fair amount of this. Now, of course, I guess there's some redemption in it, right? Because, he calls Buscemi and apologizes, and then Buscemi comes through for him. So that's a good thing. But I think the underlying thing here is that like an enduring part of a lot of comedy of this era is like born out of the fact that people just think it's, sometimes funny to watch someone else suffer. And I'm like, I just hate that. Like it never feels good to me, and the older I get, the less good it feels.
Well, and that's the comedy of our generation, which is terrible. I mean, we grew up
big
with
part of our
that
movies.
being like pretty much what we watched on a daily basis.
And that was definitely never like, I never loved that kind of thing, but I think it didn't pain me the way that it does now. And that's one of the things for me that like is the hardest to go back and watch in a way that I think is like very positive.
What's going on in your bag, Zach?
Well, if I have to body bag something from this movie, I'm going to body bag myself, because I just didn't love it as much as I remember loving it. And I don't like that a lot of times. I wish I could revisit a lot of these movies, and we keep bringing it up, but like Ace Ventura, early Jim Carrey stuff that I thought was the funniest stuff in the entire world. I wish I could go revisit that stuff. The Adam Sandler CD, all these things we've talked about. I wish I had the ability to, just for a couple hours, put myself back into that mindset and just laugh my ass off at silly, ridiculous stuff that now I'm like, I don't know if it's just not as funny now.
It's funny. Go ahead, bro.
I was going to say, what's interesting is that like when I think of movies that I reminisce on, that when I go back and watch them and they kind of hold up, Adam Sandler movies don't do this, where they include things that might go over kids' heads. I don't think they really do a lot of that in those types of movies versus like, I'm thinking of like a Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's like, I loved that as a kid. And then when I watch it as an adult, there's like lines and things that I just did not get.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, that's way funnier now because I'm older. And I just don't think that necessarily gets thrown into Adam Sandler movies. He's hitting a demographic, and it's directed towards them versus like we're being directed towards them, but also including some stuff that adults might like.
Which is what like Pixar and a lot of new animated movies do.
Yes.
There's lots of stuff in there for the parents, which is super cool now that I'm a parent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just going to say that it's funny you say that, because like one of the main notes I had was like, for me, there's sort of a special irony to the fact that you really want it. Like there's a party that wants to be a kid again. Like the trope that you say to your kids, like, you don't want to grow up too fast. Adult kids have all the fun. Adults, kind of, have all the responsibility. But it's also, you just lose some perspective, and there's some good about that, right? Like you gain capacity for some sorts of empathy and experience that you don't have, but you lose some ability to like take joy in certain things that you'll never get back. And this is one of those like where it's like the part of you that thinks it's funny, for good or for bad, is gone, right?
See,
you cannot.
You
go
can't
back.
recapture that shit.
You can't.
Right. My dad hated most Adam Sandler movies. He liked the Water Boy because I think that's a sympathetic character that like you're rooting for versus like the typical Adam Sandler shtick. He just despised. He had
there's no redeeming
never made him
qualities.
laugh.
It's
It was just
douchey.
not amusing to him whatsoever.
Yeah.
But he did like the Water Boy, and it's funny because I think that's that says something that like, the adults were just like, what the fuck is this? We don't get it.
Because Bobby Boucher is like inherently a good character.
Right.
He's like a little kid, you know?
And it is funny too, because I mean, I know your dad's sense of humor, and it's not like your dad has a sense of humor that would have been like overly highbrow at all. Right. Like
exactly.
You guys loved Married with Children and Simpsons growing up, which had its share of like crude dick joke, equivalents. But it was also very clever humor, and it wasn't full of people that you couldn't root for. Right. And I think that to me in some ways of some of the Adam Sandler movies you just can't root.
What are you going to body bag, Brad?
My body bag is that, does Billy really change at all? I think this is kind of like a carry on of our conversation right now, is it's like, does he really change? Like, okay, yeah, he earns his way back to like getting the company and stuff, but is there anything that says that he's really that much of a different person?
Because a week and a half later, Veronica's going to leave him, and then he's going to just fucking toilet bowl the entire company.
Stay tuned for my alternate ending.
But, I mean, how did we not body bag the very like possibility that any of what happens with Veronica would ever happen, right? Like,
well, that's kind of my point, and I'll get to that in my alternate ending. Is just like it's so unfeasible that she. Unless what happens in my alternate ending, that it makes sense. I'll make it make sense a little bit later.
All right, I love it.
All right, folks, we are on to our streaming recommendations. So, what do you guys think we should watch after we watch Billy Madison?
So, at the risk of being Captain Obvious here, you got to watch the next one, which is Happy Gilmore, right? So, like, I think that Happy Gilmore holds up better for me than Billy Madison. I think there's less of him being, I mean, like Billy Madison is like Adam Sandler being Adam Sandler and doing the baby voice and doing the full gimmick. Happy Gilmore is like a slight evolution from that, and I think mapped onto a much better concept, right? Like it's actually a really kind of fun sports movie formula it's a fun sports comedy. And so it has a little bit of that, like infused in it. It's got a really good cast around it again. So for me, I think Happy Gilmore holds up better and from a few different angles. So if you want to watch that one, you're going to want to have TNT, TBS, True TV, Direct TV, or just go ahead and pop for it on one of the rental places.
Yeah, I'll say Billy Madison has no barriers as far as what direction Adam Sandler can take it with his just silliness.
Right.
Happy Gilmore as a character has some barriers. Like there's some things he can do where he can be a little silly, but he's definitely a more like contained character. Whereas like Billy Madison can just go whatever direction he wants. So,
and I think a lot of the comedy in Happy Gilmore is Sandler playing off some of the other characters. So like, Shooter McGavin's a great straight man for him in that movie. There's not nearly the level straight, like Bradley Whitford doesn't quite play the same kind of straight man for him in this in Billy Madison.
Yeah, otherwise it's a bunch of elementary kids. So
yeah, exactly. so for me, I think Happy Gilmore is the superior movie and one that if you haven't seen, you definitely should watch.
Gotcha. Zach?
I can't argue with that at all. My streaming recommendation is going to be another favorite from back in the same time period, 1995, and I'm going to go with Tommy Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Farley and David Spade. I think it's super funny. It's the same type of movie, but you have Spade as the kind of straight man to, Chris Farley's just outrageous antics, and it is fucking hilarious.
I also literally never knock on a hotel room door without saying, housekeeping.
Your cousin said it to me earlier today when I knocked on the door to get into this hotel room.
You just it's like a rule that you have to do it.
But yeah, so if you liked this and you haven't seen Tommy Boy, which I doubt I mean maybe like my mom is out there and she's like, I've never seen either of those movies. So Mom, you're gonna hate Billy Madison, but maybe you might like Tommy Boy. I think
Tommy Boy holds up. That's what was my streaming recommendation was Tommy Boy as well.
Oh really?
$2.99 for rent. It doesn't look like it's streaming anywhere. I'm gonna just go ahead and add on Waterboy. If you want to see a sympathetic character, a character that you don't have to hate because it's like Adam Sandler being annoying. It's like it's a sympathetic character and it's a fun movie. So I'm going to jump in and say Waterboy, and I don't know exactly. I'm sure it's streaming somewhere. Otherwise,
get it on Apple TV for $2.99.
Yeah, rent that.
Apple doesn't have enough money.
Rent that thing and check it out because it's a fun football movie, and I can guarantee that character's probably going to be getting drafted next week.
I can guarantee you that it will, because it's. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that draft's going to get thin really quick.
Yeah, we'll see what direction that goes. All right, so we are now on to our final category here, which is reshelf. You go in the video kingdom, you're going to go ahead and take a movie and put it into a different category, or maybe you're just going to offer us an alternate ending. So who's got something to add to this?
I mean, personally, I don't love he's going to take over his dad's business storyline of this movie. I feel like make it something even just sillier, like
Change
because
the stakes.
Well, it's because like it's change the stakes exactly, and have the same competition he's got to get through the grades and blah blah blah. But like maybe make it like a judge is having pity on him. He got in like a crazy DUI wreck or something like that. Like he didn't kill anybody, but he caused a whole bunch of damage, and then he was going to have to go to jail for a long time unless somehow he makes this deal with the judge that if he can do this, then he doesn't have to go to jail or whatever it is.
So I mean, isn't that so? Can I piggyback?
Yeah.
So isn't the natural thing to do that instead of to take over his dad's company? Because his dad is like, there's the scene where his dad's like, well, you can just go back to drinking daiquiris and da-da-da. Alternatively, shouldn't his dad just be like, I'm kicking you out? Like, finally the dad gets fed up. There's nothing to do with the company. And his dad's like, you've done nothing. You didn't even get through school. And so in order to allow, his dad says, yeah, you can go back to your lavish life if you could finish school. And so the whole stakes are Billy's supposed to go through and complete school in order to be able to continue to be a slob.
And then through going through school, he learns that maybe he doesn't want to be a slob.
He decides he wants to be a school teacher. So
Or
Billy
whatever it is.
at the
Yeah,
end
yeah.
becomes a third grade teacher, right? Which is like where all his buddies are the third graders.
And he's dating Veronica Vaughn still.
Because they
and all
teach
of those
together.
things.
So
Yeah.
like that, to me, the natural thing is like, Billy Madison might be a believable third grade teacher at the end of this, and he might decide to do that.
Third might be a little late for Billy. I think maybe he could do
Well,
kindergarten.
Kindergarten first, you think so?
Is there any chance that Sandler and Chris Farley were like throwing around ideas? And because Tommy Boy, I mean, it's the plot of Tommy Boy, where he's got to try to keep his dad's company. And so maybe he was like, I got to switch it up a little bit. So Adam was like, okay, I'll make mine fucking that. I gotta go to school to do it rather than just like
Sell brake pads.
Yeah,
They obviously spent time together. It's not like neither of them knew what the other guy's movie was about. You know what I mean? And then when it came out, they were like, oh my gosh, we had the same idea. Like, I doubt that.
I mean, and then there's Billy Madison Till Dawn, where the entire school turns out to be vampires at the end, and they go after, but in the twist, Bradley Whitford tries to shoot Billy Madison, and the vampires are totally Billy Madison fans, and they just devour Bradley Whitford.
or you go Bradley Whitford is a vampire.
Oh,
You know what I mean? And like all of a sudden he like realizes and tries to tell his dad, he's a vampire, and he's like, yeah, Billy,
drunk again.
yeah, exactly. I just like the
is he a
penguin.
penguin vampire?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all I got. I mean, Billy Madison does not lend itself to, like, say, a hardcore drama reshelf, unfortunately.
Well, in my body bag, I was, or actually, I think before body bag, we were talking about how the fact that Veronica Vaughn actually likes him
Yes,
is very implausible. So I just basically said that there's got to be like Veronica Vaughn marries Billy. He's rescued the company, and she convinces him to like not only keep the company like for himself and run it, but also she just wills him into not having her sign a prenup. And so basically, like, she actually just at the end is like, as soon as she gets all that certified, she's like, adios. I've been playing the whole time. I knew you had a fortune. I knew you were an easy mark. I hate being a teacher. I don't want to do this anymore. Give me my money. And she's got part of the company, and she's got the millions now.
Veronica Vaughn is an evil
Yeah, she was
schemer.
I hate that because she's an angel.
She's the sweetest person ever, but I
she's
want her
the
to be
sweetest person ever. I like the storyline better that she just like literally breaks up with him 5 days later because he's like acting a fool again, and she's just like, this
like,
is
I'm out.
super lame. And then he goes on to binging and doing crazy shit, and not even our boy Mr. Hinkles can keep him from running the company into the ground.
By the way, I mean, can we just reflect that Larry Hankin came on? And
Dude. Super
That
cool.
was
he also
was
inherits
really
the
cool.
company. He inherits the company.
Carl runs the company.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hankin was awesome. That was a real treat to have him on today. I mean, yeah, and like I said, like he had, he was cool in Billy Madison. It was a great like opportunity for us to talk about an old classic for us. But there's some real impactful roles for me with Hankin across all his stuff. I'm actually pretty psyched about his book. That guy is definitely one I will read
For sure. And I mean, yeah, for somebody who has like, it's like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's like you can name almost any actor and like he's connected to them from through a TV show, movie, or something.
I mean, I held back. Like Zach earlier was like, we should ask him about Seinfeld, which we didn't talk about. He was in Pretty Woman. We didn't talk about the fact that a movie we covered earlier, Home Alone, he's in.
Yeah.
I mean, you could literally, if you go through his IMDb, it's nuts.
If you want to go TV, he's in every. What did Brad say? Brad was like, he is in every TV show for one episode.
Yeah.
Every single TV show.
Yeah.
I will say that if I wanted to make a movie starring Larry Hankin right now, do you guys know who would play his son?
Are you thinking Larry David?
His son. Bro.
You guys know Ryan Stiles? Ryan Stiles. He's tall comedian. He was on like Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh yeah.
The comic book guy?
No, he's kind of like a light brown haired,
He's
tall,
a very
gawky.
tall, kind of skinny guy. I feel like he could 100% play Larry
I can see
Hankin's
that.
son. So
Yeah, or maybe when they do the Larry Hankin biopic.
after they option
That
his
guy.
book, they're going to option his book into a movie.
Young Larry Hankin's going to be Timothy Chalamet. I can see it right now.
Okay, we'll take a shot. That's
Standing
one
up
thing.
to fucking Clint Eastwood.
That's one thing I'm kind of upset we didn't ask Larry about was the fact that he's 6'4", and it's like I gotta imagine being a tall person in Hollywood's got to be difficult because it legit affects the shooting of a film. Like I mean,
Oh, yeah.
as far as sight lines and the adjustments of like the height of the other characters, it makes it difficult. So I bet there's got to be something to be said that like it makes it tough to have a tall dude like that
Yeah.
in your shows. So I don't know.
I was just stoked that he wanted to sit down and tell us a whole bunch of cool stories about
Yeah,
Hollywood.
it was.
and
He
all
sure
that stuff.
did.
Super awesome.
Well,
All right,
that's a wrap, guys, huh?
that is Billy Madison. I'll be interested to see if we ever venture back into
Funny, silly Sandler land.
Adam Sandler land.
I could see us doing a Gilmore, and I could see me picking one of the rom-coms. So like either Wedding Singer or 50 First Dates.
Wedding Singer for sure, dude. I love Wedding Singer.
Wedding Singer's really good.
I think Waterboy. I mean, I don't know. It gets close to football season. You got to find those football movies. I think that could always come back.
Well, you know what? If our fans speak out, so make sure you let us know on the socials if you have movies you want us to cover. Email us, but post on the social so everybody can weigh in. Instagram, Twitter. Tell your friends about us. That's how we get our. That's how we grow our listenership. Is you guys tell somebody that you think it's cool that they should listen.
Sounds great.
Love you guys.
Have a good evening, folks.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies. Just a blind ride, no reason why. I love this scene. Nick, Zach, and Brad, your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing.